Hey guys, this is Clore Manse. We're here at the Lighthouse Studio in Dubai. Today we're going to see all the different tools that photographers use. So I prepared my list. Let's go to the rentals with it and catch up with those guys. See you. All right, so we're now in front of Studio B at the rentals. We're gonna check up with them for the gear. Come on in. Hi guys.
Hello.
How's it going? How are yours?
Good morning.
Good?
How are you?
Prepare the gear list for you today.
Just imagine if now the spin fell out.
And here we are in the studio with all the gear. Thanks to the rental guys, they really did a big job for us today. We wanted to show in this episode, like we said earlier, the different tools that we use usually as photographers in studio. So main one is lights. We're going to talk about monolights, generators with the headlights. So in the headlights, you've got different modifiers and different type of LED heads as well. Hard reflectors. Now we have the lights, but then we use many tools to come and sculpt and to work out with that light. So we use hard reflectors such as the zoom, snoots, grids, beauty dishes. Then we go to soft boxes if we want something a bit softer or broader. We're going to use soft boxes, and there's plenty of different sizes, forms, and shapes, and we'll go through them to see what we can do with it. Up to the giant reflector, which is the biggest source we have today, unless we bounce into the wall. We often use a lot of scrims, flags, diffusers as well, when we really want to create the mood we really go for. One last thing also is we have all the tools here for tethering, whether you want to tether on your computer or through a big TV screen, and that is more important and more interesting when you have your customer, the client is here on shoot, or the art director, so that he can follow along the shoot as you take the pictures. So we're going to start now with the lights. Let's get back to the lights. See you. Okay, so here we are back at the lights area. In the lights, we have two different categories. We've got what we call monolights and generators. And then in these two, it's separated in two. We have the ones we use on AC outlets. For instance, here we've got the D1 500 watts. But then we have some that we use on battery for on location, outdoor. So it's quite convenient. You've got like 300, 350 flash full power. Now if you shoot at 9, you're gonna have like double that. So it's pretty amazing. Those are monolights. We're going to see then the advantages of those monolights. Basically, you have everything in it. You don't have to have it through a generator. It's only a cable through this to the AC outlets, and no cable at all with this. So if you've got to put it like quite high, or any place where you don't really have a power source and everything, those are really amazing. In studio, I use them all the time, and outdoor, definitely. It's a big, big advantage. They're really, really huge. When you need a bit more power outdoor, we've got things like the B4, for instance. So it's a bit more bulky, but it's amazing because you really have like much more power. Those are 500 watts. This one is 1,000. And so you have like also two entries, as you can see. Let me turn it around for you. So you can put up to two lights, two heads on this one. And you can select the power, so you can have either 1,000 watt on one head, or then distribute it the way you want on two different heads. So this is something which is very used when you really need extra power. If you're shooting outdoor in summertime, in the middle of the day in the desert, a lot of reverb from the sun, reverberation. And if you have also to be far from your subject and you're using modifiers that suck a lot of lights, you need that extra power. So there's a good example for the B4. Then we have like the Rolls-Royce for studio gear. This is the Pro 8, sorry. This is 2,400 watts. Same thing, you've got two outputs. The big thing is 2,400 watts. It's much faster in recycling time. The freeze time is quicker than the D1s. It's really a power horse. Like if you really need to shoot all day long, if you want to shoot like for e-commerce or things like this is really the way to go. It's sturdy like a rock, and it rocks for hours and hours and hours. You can really kick it out of it. On those generators, as you see, there's no lights. So basically, the electricity is going to go into the capacitors, and then when you press the shutter release, it's going to release the capacitors into the heads. So all you need is to click in the heads, secure them, just like this. Let me turn it in your side. For instance, like this. Set up your settings. We'll see that in another episode later on with exposure, and you're ready to rock. So this is pretty much it. So once again, you have the monolights on one side, the generators, either on AC outlets or battery operated. We'll catch up in just a second to see the different reflectors as the first modifiers now. So now let's talk about reflectors. Reflectors, we have put a few there, which are the most common used, and we've got them from the hardest light to the softest out of the reflectors, okay? Basically, we're gonna have a full episode on hard versus soft lights, but the smaller the source of light is, the harder it's gonna be. And the bigger it's gonna get, the softest. So usually, one of the standard things we use is the zoom reflector. The zoom reflector is the basic one from Profoto. We put it all the times. And you can see that the size of the source of the light is going to become this big. Now, if you pull it away from your subject, it's going to become smaller comparative to the subject. If you bring it closer, it's going to be much softer. To make it even harder, there's one thing that we do is we use the snoot. The snoot, where you can see the diameter is going to be much smaller once again, so it's going to be even harder than that. Then we have what we call the magnum reflector. So this one is still a hard one because you can really pull it away. So you see, the further it is, the smaller it is compared to me. And this is a great one to replicate the sun. If you want to create this kind of very hard shadows on the white wall, like if it was like outdoor shoots, you take this one, you put it on the head, and you pull it away. It's going to be really amazing. The advantage of this one as well is that it really focuses the light. The light doesn't spread so much, so you're gonna get like 1 to 1.5 stops more out of your light. If you put it on, for instance, this D1 500, you're gonna have, it's a 500 watts. Putting this, it's gonna convert it to basically 1,000, 1,200 watts. So outdoor also, it's a really amazing modifier to use. In the reflectors, the biggest one we have is also my favorite. It's the beauty dish. The beauty dish is very different because, as you can see in the center, you have this disc reflector. We call this a deflector disc. So there is no hot spot. Basically, the light is hidden behind this spot here. And it is all this around part, which is quite wide, that is going to light up the subject. We'll see how to position this because the best is to use it in a specific way for having this beauty kind of light for beauty, for portraits, things like this. It's really, really amazing. It's still a hard light, but as you can see, it is wider, much larger than this one. So this one is going to be harder. This one is going to be a bit softer, but it's still considered a hard light. We have another here, which is a funny one. It's called the disc reflector, and this is the last ones we have here in the reflectors. The disc reflector, actually, it's quite tiny. It's quite small. It's just to avoid the spill of light when you use an umbrella. For instance, we have here, right here, if we can move the cameras around. As you can see here, I'm using a monolight bouncing into an umbrella, and if I want to avoid the light to spread all over, I will put this around it first so that it canalizes the light to push into the umbrella. So this one is a very specific one. Besides umbrella, there's no really use for it. Then we have, for our reflectors, we have what we call grids. Grids are very interesting because they will avoid the light to spread from the reflector. If we take, for instance, the zoom reflector, we have grids, in the order 5-degree grids, 10-degree grids, and 20-degree grids. What does that mean? That means that actually we're going to give an angle to the lights. We're going to refocus the lights. It's not going to spread as much. So we can have a tight beam of light coming out of the reflector. If you look at the one famous way to do it is like here you can see me, and there, just tilting it a bit, you don't see me, which means that the light will go from the center, but on the sides there will be nothing. This one is a really tight one. We've got the 10 and the 20. The Magnum reflector has also a grid. The Beauty Dish also has a grid, and actually it's better to show it with this one. But here you can totally see me, and here you don't anymore. Well, at least for this camera. Now for that camera there, you don't see me anymore. So it really is interesting. We use grids when we want to really control the contrast in our picture, because it increases contrast. If the light doesn't spread as much, it's not going to hit the walls, the ceilings, so it's really going to hit the subject the way we want, but it's not going to bounce back. And if it doesn't bounce back, it's not going to fill in the shadow, so it's going to increase the contrast dramatically. This is pretty much it for the reflectors. Now let's catch up and see the different size of the softboxes. So before going to softboxes, I want to talk to you about umbrellas. Umbrellas, there's so many different forms, shapes, and reflectiveness as well. But there's two big categories. The first one is shoot-through umbrella. So they are white, since the light has to go through it. They're white, they use this kind of diffusion material, and you come and put it on the light. So once again, it's more for softness, because you're increasing the light source. From this diameter, from the light head, for instance, when you put on, there you go. When you put on the umbrella, this becomes the size of the light source. So it's much, much softer. So these are shoot-through umbrellas. Then we have what we call reflective umbrellas, and those are quite interesting because you're going to have a bit more control, because the shoot-through is going to go all over the place. It's going to bounce on walls and everything. So it's really for forgiving, but you don't have much contrast and much control on your lights. Those, for instance, the reflective ones, as you can see, you have a black side which is going to capture the light, so the light is not going to go through. And then in the inner part, you have either white, or this one, for instance, silver, which is going to be a bit more specular. And this is exactly the opposite. You're not going to shoot through it, but you're going to position it like this. For instance, on this one. There. So the light is going to shoot into the umbrella and reflect back. So you're going to have a bounce light. This one is silver, so it's going to be a bit more reflective. Also, what is important in the umbrella is the number of branches there are into it. Those are usually 16 branches, so they're a bit rounder. So when you see the reflection in the catch lights, you see a bit more natural, like the sun. Whether those you kind of see only have 8 branches, so it's kind of octagonal. And you not only see the octagonal shape, but since you go through, you also see the reflections of the branches that show as shadows in the middle of the light. They tend to look a bit less natural. The advantage of those is light doesn't bounce out. So you can feather the light, you can control the spill and the quantity of light you want on your subject. So that's pretty much about umbrellas. Now we're going to shop to the softboxes. So here we have a little selections of softboxes for you. A softbox is basically a square or rectangular shape, most often. It's made of this fabric, which is going to absorb the light on the sides. It's reflective in the inside. You put it directly in the light, so you can see here you have the lights, and then you can choose, you usually have like up to 2 layers of diffusion inside. We call them buffers. So you've got a first internal one here, which is going to catch the light and spread it. And then the second one, so the first one is going to spread the light so that the last one, this one actually, is going to be completely lit. And it's to have like a nice, soft, even light spread all over. Then you scratch it back. So this one, as you can see, is a rectangular. It's a 3x4. We've got 4x6. There's 1 power 1.3. There's like from the small ones to the huge ones. There's some squared, rectangular. Here we have the 3x3, which is, as you can see, a square one. Here's the 3x3. We also have what we call strip boxes. Strip boxes are very interesting. We use them a lot in sport photography for rim lights for athletes. So this one is a 1x6, and the rim light is going to be behind the subject so that it can cut a highlight on the side of their subject to cut it from the background. So we usually use one on each side. It's quite interesting. And finally, in soft boxes, we have here one octa. So the octa has 8 shapes. It's a bit like the umbrella, but it doesn't bounce back. It bounces, it doesn't reflect, first of all. And you have those shadows on the side that you can control. You can feather the light and everything, and it's a bit more natural for some shots than the square ones. So there's also different sizes on this one. Last but not least, the biggest, softest light we have now is the giant reflector, and we're going to see that right away. So one of the softest lights we have here in the studio is the giant reflector 180. It is a very, very big, broad, soft light. It's based on an octa, but it's got not 8 faces, but 20, 21, and it's very big, as you can see it. So it really wraps light around your subject. The light is in the center, and it bounces back. It has this silver sheen in it, so it's quite efficient in power output. This is a light we use quite often in fashion as a key light, but you can also use it for fill light. When you have a main light and you've got some contrasty shadows and you want to fill out the shadows like softly and doesn't have like a origin of point, a precise origin point, but really nice soft shadows, we can use that as a fill light as well. So this is the giant reflector. Last section we have to see today are the different small grips, flags, diffusers we have in studio, because those are tools we use all the time as well. So let's check that out. In studio, we also use all bits of grips and pieces here and there. One thing we use quite often is this super clamp. Manfrotto makes the super clamp. You basically can put it anywhere. If you look like this, you want to set up a light on a shelf or somewhere on location, and you have no tripod, nothing to hold, or you're in a home or in a studio, whatever. You can use like magic arms. Magic arms are those, and with one knob, you can position the light wherever you go, or however you want, and you can just tie it and it's fixed. You can put the light on, you can have a clamp with a board, a diffuser, whatever. So these are the kinds of grips and pieces we use quite often. I wanted to show you one thing, is we always talk about diffusers, but diffusers, we have diffusers, crims, there's plenty of different forms and shapes. So let's see, let's do something with the big one behind me. Let's take a filter holder for the B1, sorry. Let's snap it on. And Profoto makes those awesome for the B series, for the OCF. They make those amazing gel pockets, which are pre-cut to fit to the light quite well. Let's take a blue one. It sucks a bit of light, but still it's an interesting one. All we need is to set up the gel holder. There, it's snapped. We just position it on the light. There. And now we have a gel blue light. So let's see what we can do with this from behind the diffuser. Doing this, we have a gel light, but now we're using the diffuser, our main source of light. So here we're using the modeling light, and with all those video lights you don't see much. But hopefully you'll get the idea here. If I shoot a few times, you'll see that it goes now through this diffuser. So it becomes this big blue soft light on me. So we can play with gels, we can play with diffusers, we can play with the different modifiers, we can cut the light. For cutting the light, we saw we use flags. So basically if we have, for instance, this big light here, but I don't want it to have on me, I can just flag it off so that I don't have it on me, but it will be in my ambient light whatsoever. So we can do plenty of things. We also use, this one is a bit used, but we use rolls of filter of a diffuser that we can put directly on the light or on the reflectors. So there's many tools. The series we're doing here is actually to make you discover the whole gear and the whole different kind of tools that we use in photography and why. Today was a general overview, but the idea of those workshops, or tutorials if you want, is to go through and we're going to have like different subjects. We're going to shoot beauty, we're going to shoot fashion, we're going to shoot portrait, we're going to shoot with 1 light, 2 light, 3 light, 10 lights, and we're going to use hard light, soft light. And along this journey, we're going to see how we shape the light according to a specific mood. We will see the workflow of a production, and we will see also the behind the scenes of the studio and the team, because the studio and whatever creative thing you're doing, it's about the whole team. I thank you for your attention today. I just want to let you know as well that Lighthouse Studio is from now on launching this new concept where you can rent the studio per hour on a 1 hour based, which is amazing for us photographers. Up to now, you had to rent it for a full day or half a day. It was a bit costly if it was just for your own production, your own portfolio, or your practice. Now it's opening up the windows, the doors, shall I say, and the studio, so you can come in and rent the studio space or space of the studio for just an hour. It comes with a light, 2 modifiers. You can come with a model, you can come with some friends, you can come with your family to shoot, and you can rent additional lights to try different things, and you can work your hard light, your soft light, and define your style. So we'll let you more about this concept, but we really invite you to come and join us and discover this great new offer, 1 hour rental studio per hour. So it's really interesting. Thank you very much for your attention, and we catch up for the next episode. We've got something amazing for you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.